Pats Nation, something big is brewing in Foxborough, and no, that is not an exaggeration. When you start connecting the dots between the draft, offensive moves, contract talks, and the way this coaching staff is positioning itself, one thing jumps off the screen. The Patriots are not building this roster on impulse, they are building a plan. And the wild part is, that plan could touch everything, from protecting Drake Maye, to adding real firepower in the passing game, to building depth in the backfield, all the way to locking down the future of the defense. Put some respect on the Patriots, because the smoke around this team is starting to look like a full-blown fire. Hit subscribe right now because this puzzle is starting to come together. The first big signal in all of this is the draft. Fact: the Patriots are picking at number 31. Fact: Mike Vrabel was at Arizona State tackle Max Iheanacor's pro day. And another fact: this was not some random stop-by because they had already met with him after the combine. When you see a head coach show up in person, get involved, and hear the prospect talk about how hands-on that coach was, that stops feeling like routine homework and starts feeling like real interest. Is it confirmation? No, but it is absolutely one of those signs Patriots fans have learned not to ignore. And why does this shake things up so much? Because for weeks, the conversation was all about pass rush, pressure, defense, and adding juice on that side of the ball. Then all of a sudden, the strongest signal on the board starts pointing to the offensive line. That changes the whole temperature of the room. If the Patriots are seriously locked in on Iheanacher, then the message is loud and clear. Protecting the project comes before chasing the flash. Before they go hunting for the headline move, they may be trying to secure the foundation of this offense for the long haul. Now here comes the heat. Recent intel around this offensive line class suggests there is a serious drop-off after the top-tier names. So if New England truly believes Iheanachor is their guy, they may not be able to sit back at 31 and hope the board falls their way. And that is where the drama kicks in. Alex Barth brought up the trade-up possibility, and honestly, it makes a ton of sense. If there are tackle-needy teams sitting just ahead of them, waiting could be like watching your dream target get snatched right off the table. And there is another layer here. Morgan Moses can absolutely hold it down in 2026, but that does not kill the urgency. It actually sharpens the vision. If the Patriots trade up for Iheanachor, that is not panic. That is planning. That is bringing in a young tackle, putting him in a structured system, pairing him with a veteran mentor, and giving him a runway to become the starter in 2027 without throwing him into the fire too early. That is Patriots football at its best. Not patchwork, not desperation, real long-term building. And if that really is the thinking from Vrabel and Elliott Wolf, then the next question gets even juicier. Because if the draft becomes the path to protecting Drake Maye, then the hunt for more explosiveness in the passing game may be headed somewhere else entirely. That is where this gets really interesting. Because if the Patriots are looking at the draft as the way to fortify Drake Maye's protection, then the explosive piece for this offense could come through a trade. And that is exactly why George Pickens is starting to feel like a name to watch. Fact: New England keeps getting connected to impact receivers. Fact: A.J. Brown is still the dream target in a lot of speculation. But here is another fact that matters. George Pickens still does not have a long-term extension with Dallas, even after being franchise tagged. And when head coach Brian Schottenheimer says publicly that he does not even know if Pickens will show up for voluntary workouts, that does not prove a breakup is coming, but it absolutely cracks the door open. And that crack is all Foxborough needs to pay attention. Because the second a player-team relationship starts looking shaky, the league starts circling like sharks in deep water. It does not mean Pickens is available today. It does not mean Dallas has decided to move him. But it does mean the situation is fluid, and smart teams should be monitoring every little tremor. And if there is one team that should be on high alert right now, it is the Patriots. Let's be honest here. After moving on from Stephon Diggs and signing Romeo Doubs, it is hard to sell the idea that this wide receiver room is fully fixed. Better? Maybe a little. Solved? Not even close. This offense still needs a guy who scares defenses, flips coverages, forces safeties to back up, and gives Drake Maye a true WR1 presence. And Pickens brings exactly that kind of electricity. He is younger than Brown, right in the heart of his prime, and coming off a monster season with 1,492 yards and 9 touchdowns. That is not blind hope. That is high-end production. Now let's be clear, this next part is speculation, and it should stay in that lane. If Dallas keeps dragging its feet on this deal, the Patriots have every reason to make the call. Because maybe Pickens is not just the fallback option if A.J. Brown does not happen. Maybe, depending on who you ask, he is actually the smarter fit. Maybe not the bigger headline, but the age, the vertical explosiveness, the upside, and the chance to grow with your quarterback for years? That is the kind of move that can change the whole vibe of a franchise. And you know what makes this even more exciting? If New England is really dividing its resources between offensive line help and a major receiving weapon, then this rebuild is more mature than a lot of people want to admit. This is not chaos. This is structure first, venom second. And once an offense starts taking shape like that, another layer of the roster suddenly matters a whole lot more, because real contenders are not built on stars alone. They are built on depth, purpose, and detail. And that is exactly where a lot of people are reading this roster wrong. When fans talk offense, they jump straight to tackle and wide receiver, and that makes sense. But teams that want to make deep runs do not just build the showroom, they build the engine. And the Patriots' backfield fits right into that conversation. Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson were a strong 1-2 punch in 2025. That is a fact. Stevenson got back to playing at a high level, more secure, more dependable, more dangerous inside the system. Henderson took a little time to carve out his role, but once he did, the burst was obvious and the production followed. Those two are pillars. The question starts after them. Antonio Gibson suffered a major injury, got released, and now the rest of the running back room is surrounded by fog. You have players coming off injuries, guys fighting for a role, and not much clarity on who can really be trusted to make the final roster. And that matters more than people think. Because this is not about finding a new RB1. That is not the need. The Patriots need function, versatility, and reliability to round out the room. Someone who can help on special teams, hold up in pass protection, give them flexibility in packages, and step in without the offense losing its identity. That is where this draft class starts getting interesting for New England. The elite running backs will likely be gone too early. And honestly, it would not make much sense for the Patriots to spend premium capital there right now. The smarter play points to day 3, and in that range, there are names that fit. Le'Veon Moss, Jam Miller, Jamari Taylor, Nicholas Singleton coming back from injury. But one specific detail stands out. Adam Randall, the converted wide receiver, has already had a top 30 meeting with the Patriots. That does not guarantee anything, but it puts him firmly in the connected to the team category, and that changes the conversation. Because Josh McDaniels loves using backs out of the backfield, stressing linebackers, creating mismatches, and forcing defenses into ugly choices. Randall could be exactly that type of hybrid chess piece, not just a gimmick, but a weapon with real utility. And when you connect that to possible offensive line help and maybe a splash receiver move, the blueprint starts to sharpen. The Patriots are not just thinking about starters, they are thinking about expanding what the entire offense can become. That is the kind of detail that separates a fun team from a dangerous one, because when your depth starts having purpose, your ceiling starts climbing. And if that is true on offense, then just wait, because the conversation flips to one of the most valuable players in this entire rebuild. And that brings us to another massive piece of this puzzle, Christian Gonzalez. Confirmed fact. Elliot Wolf said publicly that the Patriots would like to get an extension done with him. And it is easy to see why. Gonzalez has already become one of the most valuable players on the roster, a centerpiece of the defense, and his stock just keeps rising. When an executive like Wolf talks that openly, it does not feel like empty PR. It feels like real acknowledgement of just how special this player is. But saying it and paying it are two completely different games. That is the pressure point in Foxborough right now. Gonzalez is heading into year 4 of his rookie deal. He is extension eligible, and he has the resume to ask for a monster contract. Second-team All-Pro in 2024, Pro Bowl in 2025, only 23 years old, and it still feels like he has another gear left. So yes, waiting could get expensive for the Patriots, but on the flip side, waiting could be great business for Gonzalez. That is what makes this so fascinating. For New England, moving early feels smart. For Gonzalez, taking a step back and letting the market keep climbing might be the better play, especially after the corner market got pushed even higher. So is there mutual interest? Probably. But interest alone does not close a deal. Timing, leverage, and strategy are going to matter a lot here. And this ties right back into everything else. Because when the Patriots are considering moving up for a tackle, monitoring a top receiver, and looking for smart depth pieces on offense, they also have to decide who the untouchable pillars of this roster are. And Christian Gonzalez already looks like one of them. The question now is simple. Will Foxborough move fast and lock down one of the faces of the franchise? Or will they risk paying an even steeper price later? At the end of the day, the biggest thing here is not one isolated headline. It is the full picture. The Patriots may be showing us, piece by piece, how they want to build the next leap forward. Protect Drake Maye, add more explosion to the passing game, bring functional depth to the backfield, and make sure a defensive star like Christian Gonzalez stays one of the faces of the franchise. Not all of this is done yet. Some of it is confirmed, some of it is a concrete connection to the team, and some of it still lives in the world of projection. But when that many signs start pointing in the same direction, fans have every reason to lean in. Foxborough is alive, and if this plan is really unfolding the way it looks, then the Patriots may be a lot further ahead than people outside New England want to admit. Now I want to hear from Pats Nation. Which one of these moves feels most urgent to you? And if you rocked with this, make sure you like this and stick with us, because in New England, the next move might be closer than anybody thinks.